Captain Lyra Kane stood alone at the edge of the ridge, her black can-silver armor humming with residual plasma. Below her, smoke rose in snarling columns from the wreckage of fallen human outposts and Dominion artillery crawlers. Wind howled over the cracked earth, carrying the stench of burnt alloy and something worse, hope dying. She was the last Iron Warden still standing. Behind her, half buried in the rubble of the command bunker, lay the shattered remains of her squad. The prototype armor, she wore model K9X Neurosteel, was synced directly to her thoughts, but its edge was fading. Damage warnings flickered red across her HUD. Her pulse rate was steady. Too steady. The AI inside her helmet whispered risk. Percentages. She muted it. Because now, he had arrived. A massive Dominion dropship descended like a falling god, engines hissing against gravity. Its hull glowed with alien etching symbols of power, purity, dominance. Lyra's cracked visor zoomed in, and there he was, Va Kelthurn, warlord of the 13th Corps. A towering juggernaut of a being. His armor was carved obsidian, layered with bone metal. His every step left the ground scorched. In Dominion doctrine, he was considered perfect, genetically faultless, designed for command, programmed for domination. Lyra smiled bitterly. He was exactly the kind of enemy Earth had always been told was unbeatable, and that was exactly why she was going to break him. The Dominion troops held formation like machines motionless behind their warlord. But Vokal walked forward alone, his arms spread wide, his claws glowing violet. I expected many to find one. His voice boomed through an amplifier embedded in his chest plate, a final gesture of defiance. Lyra didn't move. Not defiance, she replied. Curiosity. He paused. Curiosity. He echoed, a hint of amusement curling his lips. I wanted to see what perfection looks like. Up close. With no more words, she launched. The ground shattered beneath her armored boots. The K9X thrusters ignited as she dashed forward, dodging two plasma rounds that scorched the air an inch from her shoulder. Her blade extended from her wrist and energized vibro-steel fang. Va Kel met her mid-leap. Their clash sent out a shockwave that shattered the remains of a nearby wall. Blow after blow. Fist against blade. Armor against claw. She was faster, was stronger. Her feints and human unpredictability landed deep hits against his side. His counters crumpled her arm, plating, and knocked her airborne. But she adapted with terrifying instinct. Her armor's sync flickered, nearly She began, overriding its auto-corrections, fighting like a human, not a machine, and that's when he noticed. She wasn't defending, she was inviting. Va Kel roared and tackled her, slamming her into the side of a rusted tank. With a feral growl, he ripped away the right side of her chest armor. Sparks flying as alloy screamed apart. But Lyra didn't resist. She went limp in his grip. He froze. Through the cracked helmet visor, he saw her eyes clear. Almost pitying. Feel that, she whispered. That's me choosing to lose control. He blinked. His grip loosened involuntarily, and that's when the confusion crept in. Why wasn't she afraid? Why wasn't she fighting back? Captain Lyra Kane's chest plate hung shattered, half her armor exposed and sparking, yet her expression remained. Still, not panicked, not desperate, just watching. Across from her, Vokal Thurn stood frozen. For a being engineered for flawless combat, hesitation was a flaw, and yet his claws, inches from her throat, did not move. Her voice cut the silence like a scalpel. You think this is surrender, don't you? Vokal didn't answer. The Dominion warlord studied her, exposed, side muscles bleeding, armor disengaged. She should be scrambling to survive. Instead, she stood straighter. You ripped off my armor. She continued, her breath steady. But you didn't win. A low snarl escaped his throat. His claws twitched. The air trembled again as he charged. And this time, Lyra ran. She vaulted through the crumbling window of a half-destroyed command post, landing hard on scorched metal. Dominion drones immediately descended from above. Twin eye sentries humming. One fired. Lyra rolled behind a pillar, plasma slicing the pillar in half. An instant later, Va Kel landed beside the rubble with the force of a meteor, sending cracked floor tiles airborne. You flee well, he growled. Lyra's voice echoed from somewhere above him. Humans do that. When we're learning. Visual shift. Inside the crumbling tower, darkness and sparks dance between bent girders. Rain begins to fall acidic, hissing off exposed power lines. She led him into a ruin designed for chaos. Dominion soldiers fought clean, structured battles, but Lyra had trained in collapse zones. Earth's wars were messy, unfair, personal, and so was this fight. Va Kel roared, tearing through steel walls, ignoring the flickers of pain from earlier wounds. His sensors kept glitching. Her heat signature was inconsistent. She was playing games, but Dominion warriors didn't play. They executed. He caught a blur from the corner of his vision. Lyra, dashing across a beam overhead. He leaped. Steel screamed. As he tackled her mid-run, both of them plummeting 2 stories. They crashed through a floor and landed in a submerged comms room. Water sloshing around their knees. She tried to rise. He struck. His claws tore into her thigh armor, stripping it away with a violent hiss. He pinned her against the wall. Her breath hitched, blood poured down her leg. She didn't scream. Vakel leaned close, eyes like burning glass. You think showing weakness is strength? Lyra coughed, laughing. Not weakness, intention. Then, slowly, painfully, she reached up, her helmet released and removed it. Her face was bruised, bloodied, but her eyes were sharp. You're not curious why I'm not fighting back anymore, she whispered. Vakel stared. The Dominion taught that to show one's face, mid-battle, was to offer death. An ancient insult. I chose this, she said. You can't calculate that, can you? A sudden boom rocked the chamber, an explosion from above. Rubble collapsed behind them, sealing the exit. Lyra didn't flinch. Vakel stepped back, uncertain for the first time in his memory. The neural feed in his helmet buzzed warnings, trying to reassert combat priority. He dismissed it. She was bleeding, armorless, weaponless, and yet something in her unnerved him more than any artillery barrage ever had. I read your file, she said. They bred you for efficiency. No waste, no questions. But there's a look in your eyes, Warlord. He said nothing. You're not fighting me anymore, she said quietly. You're fighting doubt. Captain Lyra Kane leaned back against the cold bulkhead wall, her breath shallow, legs slick with crimson. Her exposed skin trembled under the chill, but her eyes burned with something colder than fear focus. Across from her, Vocal Thurn stood, motionless, claws twitching slightly, as if resisting some internal order. A single droplet hissed off his shoulder plate. His gaze hadn't left her face. Why? He growled at last. She blinked slowly. Because you needed to see. See, what? That I'm not a soldier anymore. Not in the way you understand it. He stepped forward. You removed your armor in battle. That is suicide. No, she murmured. That's freedom. Flash visual. Inside Lyra's neural HUD flashes of telemetry warnings. Warning. Neural combat sync dropping below 35%. Tactical prediction. AI disabled. Psychogenic. Override initiated by user. She blinked the messages away. Pain screaming from her thigh. She didn't need the armor to fight this battle anymore. She was already inside his head. You were bred for certainty, she said, struggling to stay upright. But this, she motioned to her exposed body, her bloodied face, the sealed corridor around them. This is the one thing you were never trained to handle. Vocalest's voice deepened, rigid. Uncertainty is a flaw. Emotion is inefficient. But you're still here, she said, her voice barely a whisper now. Still listening, still not killing me. He didn't respond. His breathing was heavy, mechanical. Inside his helmet, his neural feed pulsed warnings too. Emotional irregularity detected. Cognitive conflict. Restructure recommended. He blinked the notifications away, and in that silence, a new sound emerged, his own heartbeat. Visual focus. Rain. Falling harder now, crackling against metal. Sparks dance along broken wires in the ceiling. Lyra, barely conscious, eyes half-lidded, speaks again. I broke the armor to show you something the Dominion fears, she said, almost inaudible. Choice. They never gave it to you, did they? Vocal clenched his fists. She smiled faintly. That twitch in your hand, that hesitation in your strike. They weren't programming, that was you. For the first time, you disobeyed instinct. I did not hesitate, he lied. You're hesitating now, she said, voice ragged. He turned away from her, breathing faster. Rain sizzled on his armor. His claws scraped the bulkhead, she continued. They built you to be perfect, but perfection is just predictability. That's why humans scare them. You can't code chaos. You can't simulate sacrifice. He turned back sharply. You would die here to prove a point. No, she said, finally closing her eyes. I would live to prove one, but dying would still be a choice. Flashback visual. A young Lyra in Earth's training facility, failing a simulation again and again, but rising, bleeding, laughing. You passed. No, I refused to stop trying. Vocal's claws opened. His HUD's targeting reticule blinked red across. Lyra's exposed chest stand flickered out. He exhaled. He lowered his weapon. The chamber rumbled. A Dominion strike drone had located them. From above, a cold mechanical voice echoed down. Unit, Thurn, terminate resistance target. Immediate compliance required. Voca looked up, then looked at Lyra. Her eyes opened, flickering but alive. And in that moment, the Warlord made his first unscripted decision. Its tri-barreled plasma cannon rotated with mechanical precision. The light from its core casting flickering shadows across the broken walls. Rain hissed through the open ceiling. Water pooled at Vocal Thurn's feet, mixing with the crimson trail that leaked from Lyra Kane's side. She slumped against the wall, breathing shallow, conscious but weak. Her helmet lay discarded in the water. Exposed, vulnerable. The drone's targeting beam danced over her chest. Unit Thurn, target acquired, execute. The voice of High Overmind Zereth9 crackled through Vocal's comes. Cold and absolute. Non-compliance will be marked as cognitive corruption. You are Dominion, you are flawless. Obey. Vocal stood motionless. His claws flexed, but he didn't move. Visual focus. Inside his helmet, data streamed across his vision. Target. Human combatant level 6 threat status. Unarmed, injured. Defenseless recommended action. Terminate. Something flickered beneath the feed. A ghost, maybe a code, a memory dot of her voice. They never gave you a choice, did they? The drone powered its weapon. Execute. Zareth's voice repeated. Louder, sharper. Va Kel's armor began to pulse, red warning tones glowing from beneath his chest plate. Lyra looked up at him with heavy eyes. She wasn't pleading, she was waiting, as if she already knew what he would choose. And that was what shook him most. That this fragile, bleeding, unarmored creature could look at him, not with fear, but expectation. Va Kel turned toward the drone. Target is disarmed, he growled, irrelevant to battlefield. Disobedience detected. You are a weapon, not a voice. The drone's cannon began to hum. A kill beam charged. And vocal moved. In a blink, he leaped upward, shoulder slamming the drone into the ceiling. Steel and sparks erupted. The drone's arms spun. Confused by the override, vocal roared and ripped its cannon in half. Molten coils writhing in his grip. The drone sparked, glitched, then collapsed into the water at his feet. Smoke rose from its ruined chassis. Lyra stared at him from the floor. You disobeyed, she said softly. I chose. He corrected. Outside Dominion forces scrambled. Their warlord had vanished from Cum's drones, lost his location. Protocols conflicted. Inside the collapsed bunker, rain still poured. Va Kel knelt before Lyra, and without a word, removed his helmet. His face was as inhuman as it was expressive. Jaw lined with thick bone plating, eyes luminous and sharp, scars etched like stories across his skin. But there was doubt in those eyes, and curiosity, and something she hadn't seen before in any Dominion soldier. Guilt. I was told you were beneath us, he said quietly. But your weakness is stronger than all our laws. Lyra, years ago, standing in a tribunal, disobeying a direct command to retreat, staying to pull an injured civilian from the rubble. She lost her rank that day. She didn't regret it. She think emotion is weakness. She said now, it's the only thing we have that they can't predict. Vok looked at his hands. They'll hunt you now. She added, you saved me. That makes you defective. I have never felt more alive. Lyra Kane leaned heavily against a buckled support beam. Her breath came in hitches. Dried blood caked her temple. Her thigh burned where the armor had been torn away. Her neural sync suit flickered and then died completely, leaving her fully exposed. No readings, no threat detection. She had never felt so human, so alive. Beside her, towering like a shadow ripped from the sky, Vocal Thurn moved with silent purpose. He carried no weapon. Not anymore. Just the remnants of his own shattered code, scattered like broken glass across his mind. You should have left me, she rasped. Belt Va Kel didn't answer. He adjusted the thick band of scrap metal he'd wrapped around her thigh to slow the bleeding. Dominion warriors weren't taught battlefield medicine, but humans were. Your people will come, she said. They'll kill us both. They'll try. A side corridor caved in as Dominion gunships roared overhead, scanning with burning light across the fractured complex. Shadows crawled along the walls as the pair ducked beneath a rusted balcony, slipping through forgotten maintenance shafts. Va Kel paused, placing his back to the wall. There's a dock beneath the central vault. Civilian escape craft. We must reach it before they deploy the colors. Lyra blinked through the pain. Colors. His jaw tightened. Emotionless. Blind. No orders. Just slaughter. They send them for traitors. She tried to laugh and ended up coughing instead. You're defecting now, she asked, voice hoarse. No, Vocal said. I'm deciding. There's a difference. Flash visual. Memory fragment. Lyra. Years ago, Earth Academy. Lyra kneels in the dirt beside a dying rebel. Her superior officer shouts, leave him. Move. She ignores it, applies pressure to the wound. The rebel lives. She loses command. She gains something far more dangerous. Principle. They reached a broken control panel near the elevator shaft. Lyra tapped keys with trembling fingers. Sparks flew. It's dead. I need a bypass. Vocal stepped forward. Step back. She did. With a low snarl, he jammed his claws into the side conduit, frying his palm, but triggering the ancient lift's manual override. Gears screamed. The floor beneath them vibrated. You just melted your hand, she muttered. It will heal. Lyra looked at him sideways. Do you always bleed for your decisions this fast? He paused. No one ever gave me the chance before. The elevator descends slowly. Lights flicker. Sparks rain from above like artificial fireflies. Lyra sat against the wall inside. You're not like the others. I was, he admitted, until you stopped fighting. I knew I couldn't beat you with strength. But I could beat your certainty. He knelt beside her. You used yourself as bait, he said. Why? Because your kind only listens when we bleed. The elevator opens to a dim hangar. Forgotten ships, mostly scrap. One scout vessel glows faint blue. Untouched. But Dominion signals ping in the air. They're already coming, Vocal said. Lyra tried to stand, then winced. Botch Va Kel offered his arm. She stared at it. You trust me now? He asked. No, she said. I trust what you're becoming. She took his arm. Half its hull was buried beneath debris. Its starboard engine melted from a direct blast, but it still hummed with residual power. The emergency lights cast pale blue halos across the dust-filled hangar, illuminating the silence before the storm. Lyra. Kane limped toward the vessel, every step scraping agony up her spine. Her arm was looped around Vogelthurn's waist as they moved to silhouettes in defiance of everything either side believed possible. Suddenly, a low, mechanical screech. From above, 4 black-potted drones detached from the ceiling and unfolded mid-air colors. Emotionless. Faceless, no speech. No signals, just motion sensor, linked violence. Their claws extended. The closest one dropped like a thunderbolt. Lyra shoved Viekel aside with surprising force just as the color hit the ground where they'd stood, its arms slamming into the floor like a guillotine. I thought you said they wouldn't come this fast, she shouted, diving behind a supply crate. I said they shouldn't, Bockel growled. He stood and faced the machines. They broke protocol. Lyra peeked over the crate. Looks like you started a trend. The colors advanced. Silent, but lethal. Their exoskeletons bore the Dominion crest, but their eyes glowed red, void of thought, of soul. Viekel stepped forward. Vocal Lyra called, you can't fight them alone, I must. He launched at the first color with terrifying speed, elbows breaking synthetic limbs, his shoulder driving the creature back into a wall. Sparks rained, the second pounced, slashing down his back. He staggered. Lyra reached out, gritting her teeth, pulling herself to the ship's outer console. Come on, old girl, she muttered. Light me a path. Lyra, in Earth's Flight Academy, hot-wiring a burned-out training pod while instructors yelled, you'll never get certified doing that. I'm not trying to pass, I'm trying to escape. The ship's AI flickered alive. Unknown access. Civilian evac protocol offline. Override. Kane. Lyra. Former Second Fleet. Biometric confirmed. Systems waking. Engines coughed. Lights blinked. Behind her, a third color swiped at Vokal's leg, bringing him to one knee. Blood smeared the floor. Lyra grabbed a fallen Dominion pulse rifle. She didn't hesitate. Bang. The shot seared through the color's headplate. It spasmed and dropped. Viekel looked up, breathing hard. You've never used a Dominion weapon, she smirked. I didn't say I couldn't. More shadows dropped from the far side. Dominion elites, armed, moving fast, but then something strange happened. They didn't fire. One of them, ranked, decorated, stared at Vocal, his weapon lowered slightly. Warlord, he called, confused, disoriented. You live. I chose, Vocal replied. Gasps echoed. Another soldier hesitated, then another. The squad of Dominion elite strained to obey. Condition for hierarchy watched as a bleeding warlord stood beside a human with no armor, shielding her with his body, and some of them lowered their weapons. Vocal One elite whispered, you broke protocol, and I found something greater. Lyra climbed into the ship. You coming? She called out. Kel looked at the elites. This is your choice too. A pause. Then 2 of them stepped forward. Then 3, the 4th stayed behind, and radioed for reinforcements. Lyra Kane slumped against the cockpit's support strut, her hands bloodied, her vision swimming, her thigh wound pulsed with every beat of her heart, but she refused to pass out. Not yet. Not while the engine's hum still sang of hope. Beside her, towering and silent, Vogelthurn locked the hatch and turned to the control console. His armor was scorched, his claws bent, but his eyes were alive in a way no Dominion warlords had ever been. Below them, the hangar fell into chaos. Dominion elites screamed into coms, half gave chase, half stood still, frozen by doubt. The moment had shattered something in. Now the cracks were spreading. A single Dominion trooper helmet removed. Eyes wide watches the ship vanish into the sky. He doesn't report it, he simply watches. Are they following us? Lyra asked, her voice slurring from blood loss. Viekel scanned the sensors. Yes, 2 interceptors, fully armed. She gave a dark smile. Of course they are. He glanced at her. We can't outrun them, then we outfight them. The ship shook as a blast struck its tail. Lyra lunged for the weapons console, gritting her teeth through the pain. Manual targeting, Vokel asked. I was flying when you were still in a growth pod. Warlord, she muttered. Keep us steady. He smiled, his first real one, and banked hard. The stars tilted. A plasma beam grazed their wing. Lyra fired back, narrowly missing, but the next shot clipped one of the pursuing fighters. The Dominion pilot ejected, trailing sparks into the void. One down, she gasped. Second, closing fast. Vocal warned. Let it flash. Visual, Earth. A decade ago, a young Lyra pilots a ship through a junk field, outmaneuvering elite trainees by flying into a collapsing satellite cloud. That's suicide. No, she said. That's asymmetry. She whispered, eyes narrowing. Cut the main thrusters. Now what? Trust me. He obeyed. The ship slowed. The second interceptor surged forward. Caught off guard, Lyra hit the reverse thrust and fired both rear cannons. Boom. The interceptor disintegrated in a bloom of blue flame. Inside the silence that followed, only the creaking of the ship's hull and Lyra's breathing remained. Then Vokal said quietly, "They will not stop." Lyra coughed. "No, but now they know they can be defied." He turned to her. "You've infected them." She gave a weak grin. "Good, that's what humans do. We spread ideas like plagues." High over mind, Zereth 9 watches a dozen helmet cams from the hangar incident. He sees Vokal refuse an order, sees him defend the human, sees him escape. He slams a clawed hand into the console. "Initiate burn protocol." "Sir," a voice asks. "Every soldier who hesitated. Everyone who questioned. Burn them. Back in space, ... V.A. Kell stared through the forward window at the stars. "We've lit a fire," he said. Lyra closed her eyes, barely conscious. Then let it burn through their lies. The stars ahead were cold and vast but free. Far across the star systems, cracks had begun to form. Small at first, quiet, but the defection of Vokal Thurn, once a blade of the Dominion, had struck deeper than any warship ever could. And Lyra, broken, battered, unarmored, was the infection that seeded it all. Visual scene: a desolate refugee moon. The scout ship hovered over a moon cloaked in ash. Below, dim bunkers, scattered survivors, and outlaw voices crowded into forgotten tunnels. A flickering comms tower blinked red. Last operational relay in this quadrant. V.A. Kell guided the ship down. He was different now. Not just UNA-RMORED-unbound. Lyra stood beside him, still limping, her thigh wound tightly dressed. Her armor was gone, replaced by a pilot's cloak and a crude shoulder brace. She didn't need armor anymore. "They're listening," Vokal said, staring at the comms console. Nodded. "Then let's give them something to hear." He tapped the final switch. The old broadcast system flared to life, hijacking deep-spaced frequencies. Scene broadcast begins in shadows across the galaxy and Dominion vessels. On smuggler ports, in mining, colony screens crackled. Soldiers paused, citizens froze, and then a voice spoke. "You were taught strength meant obedience. That compassion was weakness. That armor was everything. But they were wrong." Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm cut with fire. "We are not machines. We bleed, we doubt, we choose, and the Dominion fears that more than any weapon." Vokal's image joined hers, unarmored, unashamed. "I was forged in the Dominion's fire," he said, "but I was never allowed to question the heat. Now I burn by choice, and I am not alone." Flash visuals. Across the galaxy, Dominion pilot rips off his helmet, smashes the control console. A squad leader refuses the order to purge civilians. A technician sends encrypted messages. The warlord defected. The human lived. Visual beat. The overmind thrown as Zereth 9 watches in silence. Around him, advisors whisper of fragmentation, of ideological weakness. Armor them deeper. Blind them harder. But his voice shakes. He is afraid. Back at the refugee moon. The transmission ends. The room is quiet. Lyra turns to Vokal. "You just started a war with your own kind." He shakes his head. "We just started a choice." She smirks. "That's worse. Empires can fight wars. They can't fight truth." Outside, refugees, Dominion deserters, human outcasts, old rebels gather around the ship. Some kneel, some salute, most just stare, awestruck. They don't see a warlord and a soldier. They see the future. You can tear away a person's armor, but if they choose not to put it back on, if they stand there, vulnerable but unbroken, then they've already won.